Kyle Field, home to the Texas A&M Aggies, the Corps Cadets, the world-famous 12th man, Lady Reveille, and from early indications, a whole throng of Aggies ready to make some noise. We have a ranked versus unranked battle coming up here, and you know how chaos can ensue if they start smelling an upset. As we see a squad from the Big 12, the Arizona State Sun Devils, taking on the third-ranked team in the land, the Texas A&M Aggies. For EA Sports College Football, Reese Davis with you alongside David Pollack and Jesse Palmer. And guys, can't wait to get this one started. Down at the 37. This crowd, full throat, splitting the eardrums and letting them know it's going to be a long day.
What's up, football fans? Welcome to the Underdog Playbook, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories, the players, and the moments that fly under the radar in the world of college football. I'm Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brent. Brent, my man, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's week 2, and let me tell you, this college football season is already off to a wild start. From upsets to breakout performances, we've got a lot to talk about today. But of course, we have to start with one of the most exciting storylines of the season, Arizona State's quarterback, Trey Camby. If you're just tuning in, folks, this kid has been a revelation over the first 3 games of the season, and today we're diving into that huge win against Texas A&M. Ryan, I gotta ask, did you see that coming?
You know, Brent, I don't think anyone saw it coming. Arizona State walking into Kyle Field, which, let's be honest, ESPN ranks as the #1 toughest stadium to play in, and pulling off an upset against Texas A&M? That's a huge statement. And the man who made it happen? Trey Camby, the redshirt sophomore quarterback who's still trying to solidify himself as the QB1. And he did exactly that in that game. Trey had 2 total touchdowns, just under 300 all-purpose yards, and, this is the big one, he didn't turn the ball over once.
That's right, Ryan. Trey Camby went into one of the most hostile environments in all of college football and played with the poise of a seasoned veteran. He didn't flinch in the face of adversity. He didn't let the noise of 100,000 screaming fans get to him. Instead, he led Arizona State to a 24-21 win, and it was clear, this kid's for real. Now the stats were impressive, but it was how he managed the game that really stood out to me. This was his first real test as QB1, and he passed it with flying colors.
Absolutely. Trey said after the game that it was the toughest away game I've ever played in, and honestly, I don't think anyone can argue with him. The environment was brutal. Texas A&M is a program known for creating pressure for opposing teams, and to step into that arena and not make a single turnover, that's huge for a guy who's still figuring out his role as the starter.
No doubt. And let's talk about his decision-making because that's what really stands out to me. There were some moments in the game where Texas A&M had a chance to take control, but Trey just didn't force anything. He stayed patient in the pocket, kept his eyes downfield, and when the opportunity was there, he took it. He didn't try to do too much. That's a sign of a guy who's maturing and starting to get comfortable in his role.
That's the key right there. Patience. Trey's redshirt freshman year was a bit of a roller coaster. He showed flashes of brilliance, but he also had some tough moments with turnovers and bad decisions. But in this game, he didn't make those same mistakes. Even when the pressure was on, he kept his cool. And let's not forget, he wasn't just managing the game, he was driving the offense. 2 total touchdowns and just under 300 all-purpose yards? That's no small feat. And when you're talking about a game like this, against an SEC opponent with a defense like Texas A&M's, it's not just about putting up good stats. Trey had to be smart with the football, especially when you're on the road and you don't want to give the other team any extra opportunities. You look at the numbers, no turnovers, and you can see the growth. He's not the same guy we saw last year when he was more of a boom or bust player.
You hit the nail on the head. It's not just the stats, it's the decision-making, the mental game, the maturity. The growth that Trey showed in this game was just as impressive as the big numbers he put up. I mean, we've seen a lot of talented quarterbacks who can make big plays but can't handle the mental side of things when it matters. Trey didn't get rattled in that environment. He stepped up when it counted, and that's what a true QB1 does.
Totally. And the best part? This isn't just a one-off performance. Trey's building something here. If you look at how he handled the game, it feels like he's settling into the role. He's not trying to do too much. He's letting the game come to him, and he's trusting his teammates around him. The leadership is evident. When your quarterback can manage a game like this without turning the ball over, and he leads the offense with confidence, especially in one of the toughest environments in college football, that's a game changer for your program.
And let's not forget, Trey was in a competition for the backup role heading into camp this season. For him to win the starting job and then deliver in such a big way, that's got to give Arizona State fans a ton of confidence moving forward. You mentioned growth, Ryan, and that's really what this whole game represents for Trey. It wasn't just a good performance. It was a sign that Trey Camby is starting to hit his stride as the leader of this offense.
Right, and you know how it is, Brent. Quarterback is the most scrutinized position on the field. Every mistake, every turnover, it's magnified. So for Trey to go into Kyle Field and not make a single turnover, especially after the ups and downs of last season, he's proving he can handle the pressure. But here's the thing. This is only the beginning. He's still got a lot to prove. This performance shows the potential, but now it's about consistency.
For sure. And consistency is going to be key. Can Trey keep this level of play up throughout the season? Because we both know that the Big 12 isn't going to give him any breaks. Arizona State has a tough schedule ahead, and teams are going to be gunning for him. But if he can maintain this confidence, if he continues to make smart decisions like he did in that Texas A&M game, Arizona State could be in for a special season.
Exactly. One game doesn't make a career, but this was a huge step in the right direction for Trey Camby. Arizona State fans should be excited, but as you said, the real test comes as the season moves forward. Can Trey keep his foot on the gas and avoid the mistakes that can derail a season? Time will tell, but this performance against Texas A&M definitely has me excited for what's to come.
Absolutely. This was a statement win for Trey, and honestly, it's a statement win for Arizona State as a program. They were counted out, but now they've got a QB1 who's showing he can lead them through the toughest situations. If Trey keeps playing like this, Arizona State could be a dark horse in the Big 12 this season.
Well said, Brent. All right, folks, that wraps up our recap of Arizona State's monumental win over Texas A&M. Trey Camby showed out, and it's clear that the Sun Devils have something special brewing at quarterback. Stay tuned, because up next, we'll dive into Trey's second big performance of the season against Hawaii, where the Sun Devils' offense exploded. You won't want to miss it.
Yo, let's do it. Feet after feet, fall after fall. When do I start to feel like I'm doing this for y'all? I rap and delete, smoke and repeat. Something's hiding in me and I can't see. I wonder what can it be? Is it the process of becoming it all? Then I think, when's the fall? Was I ever meant to ball? I don't know. Hopefully one day I understand it all. I'm just asking God, that's all. I could get on here and talk like I dropped 30 on y'all, cause I did, but I gotta do it again. Repeat what he said, I gotta do it again. I'm just speaking, I'm just dreaming. I'm trying to get it from seeing to being. Controller in my hand, got you peeping how I'm scheming. Drawing up plays, call me Coach Hardball. I run the play too like Michael Carter Williams, y'all. Cross the goal line with the ball. 3-point shot, go in the rim as the buzzer ring for the final call. All in all, I just want a ball.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. We've been diving into Trey Camby's impressive start to the season, and if you've been listening, you know the kid's been lighting it up. So let's pick up where we left off. After that monster performance in Texas A&M, Trey and the Arizona State offense came back home to take on Hawaii in a game that started off close, but turned into an absolute shootout. Arizona State wins it 52-38, and man, Trey Camby, he was dialed in. 6 passing touchdowns, 391 passing yards. But there's a little more to this story, right, Brent?
You're right, Ryan. While the numbers are jaw-dropping, 391 yards, 6 touchdowns, there's more to the story than just those eye-popping stats. Trey did throw 2 interceptions in the game, which could have easily turned the tide in Hawaii's favor, but despite the mistakes, he didn't let it affect his play. Instead, he and the offense exploded in the second half, and honestly, that's what stands out most to me. how Trey responded after the turnovers. He didn't flinch, he didn't lose confidence, and he kept attacking.
Exactly, Brent. And look, we've seen young quarterbacks get rattled by turnovers, especially when the game's still close. But Trey didn't let those picks derail his performance. That's a sign of growth, right? Last season, he had his moments where one mistake would lead to another, and suddenly the wheels were falling off. But in this game, he took the hits, shrugged them off, and just kept doing his thing.
Totally. And let's not forget, this wasn't just a one-off game against an overmatched opponent. Hawaii came into this game with a capable offense, and Arizona State had to keep up in a game where defense was kind of optional, but Trey showed he could put the team on his back and deliver. 6 touchdowns? That's not just a good game, that's an eye-opening performance.
Yeah, and what I love about Trey's game in this one was his poise. After the second interception, I was wondering if that might have been the moment where the game started to slip away, but he just kept his cool, and that's when you start seeing his confidence as the leader of this offense. He was spreading the ball around, making quick reads, and he kept finding mismatches in Hawaii's defense. That's what great quarterbacks do. They take what the defense gives them, and Trey did that perfectly.
That's such a great point, Ryan. He wasn't forcing anything. Yeah, he had 2 picks, but sometimes that's just football. But what Trey did after those moments, that's what separates a young quarterback from a guy who's finding his rhythm. He didn't try to do too much. He kept making the right throws, kept running the offense at a high level, and before we knew it, the Sun Devils were up by multiple scores.
Exactly. That's what impressed me most about Trey's approach, his ability to bounce back. When you're a quarterback still trying to find your consistency, a lot of guys would try to force the issue after a turnover, start getting desperate, and throw a couple more picks. But Trey didn't do that. He didn't try to be a hero. He let the offense flow, and it paid off. And let's not forget the playmakers around him. The wide receivers were making plays all day, and the running backs did their part to keep the defense honest. But still, this was Trey's show. 6 touchdowns. He was the engine that made everything go. And 391 yards? That's a statement for sure.
Absolutely, but let's talk about the interceptions for a second. Yeah, they didn't derail the game, but they're still a part of the story. If Trey's going to take that next step and really solidify himself as a top-tier quarterback in the Big 12, those are the kinds of mistakes he'll need to clean up. The talent is there. He's got the arm, the mobility, and the mental toughness. But the question remains, can he limit those mistakes as the season goes on? Because in tight games against tougher competition, those turnovers could be costly.
You're right, Brent. The mistakes are something to watch as the season progresses. But I think what's important here is how Trey handled those mistakes. In the past, maybe he would have let the pressure get to him. But now he's learning how to manage those moments. There's a difference between making a mistake and letting it affect your entire game. Trey's starting to show that he can recover from those moments and still play at a high level. That's huge.
Definitely. And this game, when you look at it as a whole, really shows that Trey is starting to develop into the kind of quarterback who can handle a shootout like this. Last year, the Sun Devils struggled to score at times, and the offense was inconsistent. But now, this offense is putting up points in a hurry, and Trey is the catalyst. He's learning how to put his foot on the gas when the offense is rolling and keep the defense on their heels.
Right. And this game was a perfect example of that. Trey was making quick decisions. He was distributing the ball efficiently, and he wasn't afraid to go deep when the opportunity presented itself. And the big thing here, Brent, is that this wasn't a fluke. This was the second game in a row where Trey showed up big. First, it was the upset against Texas A&M, and then he follows it up with a 391-yard, 6-touchdown performance. If Arizona State can get consistent play like this from their quarterback, they're going to be tough to beat in the Big 12.
Without a doubt. And here's the thing. For Trey Camby, this is only the beginning. He's still got room to grow. His ceiling is huge, and I think the more games he gets under his belt, the more he'll improve. The confidence is starting to build, and with that, the consistency is going to follow. Right now, it's clear Trey is figuring out how to be QB1, how to lead the offense, how to bounce back from mistakes, and how to elevate his game when it matters.
Exactly. And the exciting thing is that this offense has so much potential. If Trey can keep playing like this, the whole team gets elevated. The defense will be able to relax a little bit because they know the offense can put points on the board quickly. And if Arizona State can get that kind of balance, look out because they're going to be a tough team to handle.
The sky's the limit for Trey Camby, and it's going to be exciting to see.
Well said, Brent. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up our recap of Arizona State's big 52-38 win over Hawaii. Trey Camby continues to impress, and we're just getting started. Stick around, because up next, we're going to dive into what this offensive explosion means for the rest of the Big 12 and Arizona State's upcoming games. You won't want to miss it.
Yeah. About to just go do it right now. Say fuck it. I try to write about my own life, only to find myself thinking I'm moving trife. Cause I don't think I'm moving right. All homies just up and leave. Didn't think I was gonna be shit, so they left the team. People in my comments calling my shit basic, saying
All right, folks, welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. We've already covered a couple of impressive performances from Arizona State's new starting quarterback, Trey Camby, but now we've got to talk about the big one. Trey and the Sun Devils were back at home for their third game of the season, this time facing off against Oklahoma State. And, wow, what a game. Arizona State went off for another offensive explosion, with Trey throwing for 371 yards and 7 total touchdowns in a dominant 48-21 win. I mean, this one was over by the end of the third quarter, Ryan. Trey was pulled early with the game already sealed up.
Yeah, Ryan, when I saw that score, I had to double-check the box score to make sure I wasn't looking at some sort of video game stats. 7 touchdowns, 371 yards. Trey Camby is on a different level right now. The Sun Devils are absolutely on fire, and I don't think anyone could have predicted this kind of performance out of the gates from him. But let's talk about what this win really means. For a guy who is still fighting for the starting job in training camp, to now be putting up numbers like that, it's insane. Arizona State fans have to be feeling pretty good right now.
Absolutely, Brent. Trey has gone from a question mark to, dare I say, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the Big 12 right now. This wasn't just another good performance. It was dominant. You can't overstate what this game means for Trey's development and for Arizona State as a whole. 7 total touchdowns, no turnovers, and getting pulled out of the game in the third quarter because the victory was already locked up? That's the kind of performance that cements your place as QB1. And honestly, after this game, the narrative surrounding Trey Camby being anything other than the guy is pretty much gone.
Right? If anyone was still questioning whether Trey had truly earned that starting spot, I think he's answered it emphatically in this game. But what stands out to me is just how comfortable he looks now. Early in the season, there were moments where you could see the growth. He was steady, he was making the right reads, and while there were some mistakes, he always bounced back. But now, it's like he's found a whole new level of confidence. He's commanding this offense. The poise, the leadership, the way he's spreading the ball around, it's impressive. This is the third game in a row where Trey's been playing at an elite level.
And Brent, it's not just about the stats. Although, let's be clear, those numbers are ridiculous. It's the way he's playing. Take the 7 touchdowns. Trey's hitting his receivers in stride, he's showing off his arm strength on deep throws, and he's making quick decisions in the red zone. You mentioned the confidence. What I see now is a quarterback who's trusting his playmaking ability, but also trusting the guys around him. His timing and decision-making are clicking. And remember, this is the same guy who was in a competition for the backup spot just a couple of months ago. Now look at him. He's practically making it look easy.
Exactly. I've got to admit, I was one of the guys who was kind of skeptical at first just because we saw some inconsistency last season. But it's hard to deny what we're seeing right now. Trey Camby is playing like a guy who's been in the starting role for years. I'm just sitting there thinking, this kid has it. The arm strength, the accuracy, the ability to go through his progressions, he's doing it all. And when you factor in the leadership and his ability to stay calm, even when the game's already getting out of hand, that's the mark of a guy who's ready to lead this team.
No doubt. And I think this game was also a huge statement for Arizona State as a whole. Oklahoma State's a solid team, always a tough opponent. But the Sun Devils didn't just beat them, they dominated. Trey didn't just win this game, he controlled it. He was in charge from the opening snap, and when you see a quarterback with that level of control, it changes the entire outlook for the team. The offense is clicking, the defense is feeding off that energy. Arizona State, as a program, looks like they could be a serious contender this season. And with Trey playing like this, it's hard to say there's a limit to how good they can be.
Right, Ryan. This win wasn't just about Trey, it was about the whole team. The offense, like you said, is firing on all cylinders right now, but Trey's ability to stay in rhythm and make every throw, every decision, while the defense forces turnovers and sets up scoring opportunities, it's really a team effort. Arizona State looks balanced. Trey looks like the leader, and the guys around him are stepping up in big ways. I mean, just look at the way the running backs are playing. They're making defenses respect the run game, which opens up even more for Trey in the passing attack. There's a real sense that this is a team on the rise, and Trey Camby is the guy leading them.
No doubt about it. And what I think is even more exciting for Arizona State fans is that Trey is still learning. He's only a redshirt sophomore, so there's still room for growth. If he can continue playing at this level, if he can continue to cut down on the mistakes and keep making the right decisions, this offense is going to be dangerous. And when you have a quarterback with that kind of playmaking ability, it opens up the whole playbook. The Sun Devils' offense is dangerous right now, but if Trey keeps improving, they could be unstoppable.
That's the thing, Ryan. When you're talking about a young quarterback with this kind of potential, who's already playing at this high of a level, it's scary to think what he could do with more experience. And as you said, it's not just about this season. If Trey keeps this up, it changes the whole trajectory of Arizona State's program. They could be back in the Big 12 title race sooner than anyone expected. We're talking about a team that could have a quarterback capable of winning them big games, and we're seeing that unfold right in front of us.
Exactly. And for all the questions about Trey coming into this season, I think we're seeing that he's answered every single one of them. There was the turnover issue last season. He's been incredibly clean this year. There was the consistency issue. He's been dialed in for 3 straight games now. And now, with his 48-21 win against Oklahoma State, Trey's status as QB1 is beyond secure. He's the guy.
Without a doubt. So, what does this mean for Arizona State moving forward? Well, first of all, it means that they've got a quarterback who's already playing at an elite level, and with the pieces around him on both sides of the ball, Arizona State could be in for a huge season. Trey Camby looks like he's ready to lead the Sun Devils to new heights. And if I'm an Arizona State fan, I'm feeling pretty good about the direction this program is headed.
Absolutely. Trey Camby has solidified himself as Arizona State's QB1, and right now, it feels like the sky's the limit for him and the Sun Devils. Folks, if you're not already watching Arizona State football, you better start tuning in. This team is for real, and with Trey at the helm, they might just be on the verge of something special.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Ryan. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. We've recapped 3 incredible games from Trey Camby, and I think it's safe to say that he's one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in the country right now. Stay tuned because we've got more college football action coming your way, and you won't want to miss it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Underdog Playbook. We'll catch you next time, same place. Until then, enjoy the games, and remember, don't stop rooting for the underdogs.